Welcome to the Yoga for Empaths podcast. My name is Tara Kaur, and we're going to be diving into many different topics related to holistic health, the yoga lifestyle, energy healing, and so much more. So I invite you to bring your favorite cup of herbal tea, your journal, and create some space to relax. Let's begin. Welcome to another episode. We are going to dive into a discussion today. I just felt like having a cup of tea, so I'm just finishing up my cup of my cup of morning tea after some meditation and after listening to a lot of different videos and podcasts and getting inspiration for that. And we are headed towards this new moon in Capricorn, 2021. So there's been a lot going on. We all know what's been going on in 2020. I'm making this in the beginning of 2021. Happy New Year, by the way. I'm looking forward to what this year will bring, but I'm also very aware that whatever I talk about now is going to be very relevant in the future because we're going through a lot of different changes, whether you're listening to it directly in January 2021 or in the next couple of years. So I'm opening up a discussion. I'm opening up this space and holding space for my thoughts and for you guys listening to just see what comes up for you and also to share some tips. And we'll end with a little bit of a meditation slash reflection questions for your journal exercises. And of course, there will be a blog post related to this episode, so there will be more tips and more resources and inspiration that you can check out there. So yeah, with that being said, I have to say we are at a very strange time. I'm not going to say difficult time because I know a lot of people that haven't found these times to be difficult. In fact, they've actually benefited from time at home. But since we're talking about finding home within during these transitional times, I also have to say there's been a lot of different changes for people that have been difficult. So I've seen both sides. I've also experienced a little bit of both sides. And I'm sure you're listening to this and reflecting on whether you found 2020 and the lockdowns and everything related to home difficult or easy, or a bit of both. What really struck me actually with 2020 is that it's been a wake-up call. It's been a huge wake-up call to the point where many people have been making really big decisions. Because when you have time to just sit at home, you start reflecting really on what home means to you. And home means different things for different people. It's a deeply personal thing. So each one of us might have been triggered, poked, and provoked in many different ways about what our home means to us on an internal level, and also how it's reflected in our home, physical home, the place we live. And I think as an empath and highly sensitive person, home is such an important topic. Well, for everybody, I think it's an important topic, but especially if you need space to hold, to recharge your energy. And I always think of home, or wherever you call home, as a place where you feel safe and happy and relaxed in order to recharge your own batteries at the end of the day. No matter what's been going on in the world, no matter what stuff has been going on externally outside of what you call home, coming back to a space where you can recharge your energy every day. I think that's super important. And there's been a lot of decisions about what homes or home, the concept of home, the word home means. I've seen people who have actually embraced their home and spending more time because they didn't have that much time in normal, quote unquote, normal life to spend time at home. But I've also seen people reflect on home in a way that they're looking at the people that they spend time with differently. They're having to spend more time with maybe their flatmates or their family, or maybe I don't know, their partner, whatever it is. The people that we share our home with has become a really big topic, and it's been a big decision-making time for many people. I know people who've moved homes, have decided that the place that they live actually isn't what they wanted or what they felt comfortable with as a home, even to the point where they've moved completely different environments. So some people who I know lived in the center of a city have now decided to move into the countryside, and vice versa. Some people in the countryside wanted to be closer to the city. And I also know that finding time being at home is also a space where a lot of the shadow can come up. And yeah, definitely 2020 for me, I've seen a lot of my own shadow come up. And as we move into this Capricorn new moon, where I'm making this video, there are going to be a lot of different shadows that come up with change. But the positive thing I think about change is that it's a huge opportunity. Anytime we're going through some sort of transitional times, again, collectively on a personal level, it's almost like a choice point where we have to go through the shadows, but at the same time, we have to get extremely clear about the structures in our life. So let me share some tips that have been super helpful for me, especially during these difficult times, during lockdown, when I had a lot of time to reflect on what home is during the difficult times. And you can see which ones feel right for you, and you can also make some of them a practice. It's definitely an ongoing thing for me. So these are just some of the tips, and I have more information in the post that you will find in the link in the description box. So let's begin with the fourth house in astrology. Even if you're new to astrology, and it can be a little bit scary, actually, when you're new to astrology, because it is a totally different language, and it's something that if you look in depth, it can take lifetimes to learn, because there's so much information about astrology. And actually, astrology is just putting meaning to nature's cycles through the planets and through the universal cycles that we're all part of. And from the moment we're born, from our first breath, we have a chart, and it's called our natal chart. And you can find your natal chart in any free website that offers this. I'll have a link in the blog post where you can put your birth details down, and it will show you a huge chart with loads of symbols and loads of different information on it. And it will look really strange if you're completely new to this. So what we do generally, and this is very general because we can go really in depth into this, but in general, we look at the fourth house when it comes to home. So if you have your natal chart, zoom in to fourth house. Forget everything else. Just zoom into the fourth house and have a look at what sign your house is in. As in, is it an Aries? Is it a Gemini? Is it a Pisces? That sort of thing. Which are the 12 signs it's in. And also if you have any planets. And with that information, just with that information, you can quickly look up what kind of energy you have with your soul contracts. So your soul contracts energy when you were brought into this lifetime. You can go on Google, you can go on YouTube and type in fourth house in Cancer, for example, or fourth house in Aries. Or you can put the planet in and say fourth house in Jupiter or fourth house in Saturn. So whatever it is for you, just note down in your fourth house what sign it is in and what planets are there. And do some research. And actually, for me, it was a very eye-opening experience because there were plenty of things that I actually didn't really feel I knew about consciously. But as soon as I found out what was in my fourth house, it just made complete sense. I'll also give you an example from one of my clients. where her fourth house really changed her life in terms of opening up that doorway to looking at her natal chart and what her fourth house is. And before I begin, I actually want to say that the fourth house is not just about home. There are many other different aspects of the fourth house. The fourth house can mean family life, can mean children. It can mean our ancestors, so the things that were passed down, especially 7 generations before, through our ancestors, whether it's a trauma or whether it's the patterns or the belief systems that were passed down. It can be connected to our past lifetimes as well. And especially in these times, it can be connected to our emotions, our internal emotions, the foundations that make us who we are emotionally. It's connected to the moon, so the moon cycles is very much a fourth house energy. And it's also connected to the mother figure, mother being an energy of nurturing and compassion and all the feminine energy. We all have feminine and masculine energies, so our upbringing and the person in our life that held that nurturing and that feminine energy while we were growing up and also in our life today. So it can mean plenty of different things. And with this particular client, I have to bring it up because she stood out to me as someone who really started a whole journey of what it meant to be connected to home, the energy of home through her natal chart. So when I first met her and she didn't know anything about her chart or astrology or anything like that, on the outside everything looked perfect. She had an amazing upbringing. She had a very stable home. She had a beautiful home. Physically, it was a very beautiful home. She had a great partner. But there was this feeling of never belonging. This feeling of never really feeling like she belonged in the place that she lived in, the country she lived in, the home she lived in. She always felt like she didn't belong there. And in looking at her actual chart, very quickly we found out that she had Cancer and Chiron in her fourth house. Cancer being the natural home in fourth house. So fourth house is very connected to Cancer. So it shows a person who is highly sensitive, a water sign, a mother energy sign. But it also had Chiron, which was the wounded healer. And after looking at her chart and doing past life regressions and also talking to her own family, especially her mother, she found out a lot of different things about her family that she didn't know about. Traumas that came from maybe the maternal lineage from her family right up to her. And at the same time, she was also struggling with the idea of being a mother herself. So all of these different things came up. But when she worked through the shadow self, which is the Chiron energy, Chiron being the wounded healer, looking at the shadow self and then learning the lessons so you can pass that energy onwards to the people or to the things that you do in your life, it really transformed her. And through working through the shadow self, the energy was somehow released. And she actually became pregnant a few months later after doing her work with the fourth house. She became pregnant because she had these blockages that suddenly felt like they could be addressed. And also she could dive in deeper. And also by becoming a mother, she said she felt with the Cancerian energy and also with learning the lessons through her maternal line, she felt very at home with being a mother. And I felt this was such a beautiful example of someone who, just by looking at the fourth house energy in their natal chart, they were able to unlock a lot of things. So everyone will have their own fourth house energy, and everyone will see some ways of healing and some ways of discovering things about themselves. So I definitely recommend looking at your fourth house or going to an astrologer, a qualified astrologer, who will tell you a lot more, and of course in much more detail, about what your fourth house is and how it corresponds to the rest of your chart. The second tip I want to give is about connection. So connection is like the word home has a very personal meaning. Connection with ourselves, connection with our environment, connection with the people we're with, connection to the things that we do, all these forms of connection. And I think definitely during lockdown and quarantine, and when the world had a moment to pause and take a deep breath in, and we still are pretty much in this stage of taking this deep inhale, and we haven't had a chance to exhale yet. There is this moment of looking at what really feels connected to us on a personal level. And I want to share how connection can be explored in the external world as well as the internal world. So through nature, for example, nature, our connection to nature, nature being our home. More and more of us are realizing how nature does play a part in our own personal grounding, in connecting back to the primal force of and the cycles that we're part of. We are part of nature. It was funny to see how during lockdown, nature had a way of just showing up and taking over in such like a really small space of time. Suddenly there were more animals taking over the city. Suddenly the pollution and the weather cleared up. Suddenly so many things showed up that reminded us of how nature is this very intelligent energy. It's a very intelligent energy that we're part of, and we can't cut ourselves away from it. So finding ways to connect with nature in our life can really bring us back home, bring us back to the connection. And if it is in your external environment, maybe you can start bringing in more of that nature into your home. So even just having more plants at home, or internally and externally connecting to the food that nature provides and nourishing our body with food that's seasonal, so we can connect to those cycles of nature. Even if you live in a city that is extremely urban and concrete, there are ways of connecting with nature. On a personal level, let me share one example with you. I was going through a long period of time where I felt completely disconnected to being in London. London for me just suddenly felt way too big, way too concrete, way too grey, and way too cold, both through the weather and through the people. It was just a period of time where I just felt completely disconnected, and it just didn't feel like home. I didn't find that connection of home. And what I did was I started making a practice of finding ways to explore connection in my environment. So I started looking at green spaces nearby, even though there are a few green spaces in London. Obviously, it's mainly, for me, a very concrete jungle. But I started spending more time in those green spots, even if it was just a tiny little circle or tiny little square down the road of green spaces. I started to notice how nature was quite rebellious in the way it showed up. Through the concrete, you would see plants and trees and all sorts of things going through the concrete. A small little flower showing up in the middle of the city and through the concrete, almost like an act of defiance. And it always reminded me, when I find little things like that nature is all around us, even though we might not see nature. And actually, London began a journey for me where I started connecting even deeper into my spiritual self because of the environment and because of the way I wanted to find more connection. So nature is definitely a place where we can find more peace, where we can find more home. In saying that, you can also find home within home, or home away from home, should I say. So finding places outside of your physical home where you can go to that just feel like home. For me, being in that disconnected state in London, I started to make it a practice also to find little spots in the city where I could just go and relax in. So I didn't feel like my home was the only place where I could relax. So things like coffee shops and things like little restaurants. I know it's difficult now with lockdown, but it doesn't necessarily have to be an indoor space. It could be outdoor spaces where I could find connection. And just finding these little spaces nearby where we can return to every time we need grounding makes a huge difference, because we're connecting our feeling of home with our external environment. Another way of finding connection is through the causes, the things that we feel passionate about, the activism. And we are definitely at a time where there's a lot of activism going on, whether it's the environment, whether it's equal rights, whether it's the politics, you name it. On all levels, there are so many different activation points where we can be part of community, even if it's just online for the moment, as we go through these different changes and these different forms of separation. But when we find community in the things that we feel passionate about, I feel we can find more home. We can find and actually learn more about ourselves through other people. So this has definitely been a time where I've been looking at different causes, different groups that resonate with my belief system, and also that pushes me to explore more about what I believe in and what I know, or what I think about the world around me. And I love this energy because it's very dynamic. It keeps us on our toes. It definitely keeps us on our toes as we're going through this transitional time. And it helps us find our place in the world, and also what it means to honor what we believe in. And of course, a lot of these causes are very primal. They do go back to our ancestors. They do go back to the energy that we were brought up in. They do go back to looking at the ways that have shaped us into who we are today, and also how we would like to see the energy in the future. What happens now is actually going to affect the next 7 generations ahead of us as well, as we go through the next 200-year cycle in the air element. So 7 generations all begin with the first generation, as in this present moment generation, making that impact and slowly passing that on. So if you look at the bigger picture, it's really big. It's huge. And we can start by just finding small little places or big places where we feel home in community, home in the places we feel we can make changes in. Our body is a way of grounding ourselves. And I know as an empath, highly sensitive person, we tend to be very out of our body sometimes, in our upper chakras, connecting to everything around us and the energy around us. And it's funny because during these times of transition, even if we don't watch the news, even if we stay away from big groups and crowds, even if we are not physically or mentally attuned to what's going on in the world around us, the energy is still very much there. And as empaths and highly sensitive people, we pick that up. I have a friend who, she moved out to the countryside in a completely different city recently. Different country recently. And everything is new to her. She doesn't watch the news anyway, and she's just realigning her energy by tuning in. And she's saying that she actually she's able to tune in, feel when big events happen in the world, because it is global. It is personal, but it is global at the same time. And as sensory humans, we're connecting more to that energy, even if we live in the middle of nowhere in a completely new country and we don't even speak the language, or we don't know what's going on around us because of the language differences, etc. We still feel the energy. So we need to bring that energy into our bodies. And one of the ways we can do that and keep in tune with what feels like home within our body is through the senses. By using our senses, and I say the senses, not counting sight, because most of us use our sight more regularly. If you choose another sense, we can start making this a practice, and we can start creating small little things that we can keep as home reminders, as things that help us feel connection. So if you love smells, for example, you can start using essential oils. For me, essential oils have been amazing because they remind me of the energy that I want to tune into myself. If I want to tune into much more grounded energy, I would go for the base notes, which is like sandalwood and frankincense and myrrh, that sort of energy. Or if I want to go into my upper chakras and want to be more uplifted, then I would go into the top notes, which is the area of essential oils that, connect more with the citrus and the more uplifting smells. So there are many ways of exploring essential oils. If you like your hearing sense, you can start exploring music, closing your eyes and just tuning into different music and seeing where you feel it in your body. And there's so many other ways in which you can dive into your senses. So I definitely recommend, especially during these times, not just to be in your upper chakras and connecting to the energy around you, but also to bring it into your physical body as a part of your structuring in your life, as a part of connecting to yourself and to what home is. Your body is a vehicle to your soul. It's your home. It's your physical home. So connecting to the senses and enjoying it. I did mention food, I think, before, but eating foods that are connected to the home environment we live in, so the country we live in, the local foods around us is amazing. And also more grounding foods, especially when it comes to the seasons. Trying to use a lot more grounding foods, which will actually help, keep us, feeling much more heavier in some ways, but it will actually keep us grounded in many different ways. So root vegetables and anything that grows below the surface of the ground is amazing for grounding our energy in and keeping us in place, so we're not just out there, we're actually present in our bodies and grounded. So all these different ways to find home. And I like to end this podcast by doing a quick meditation with reflection questions so that you can kind of tune in to what home means for you, and also how home and the feeling of home is connected to your body. So take a moment to find a very quiet space. If you're not in one already, then find a quiet space where you can close your eyes and take time out for yourself completely through your breath. Find a seated position, making sure that your spine is nice and straight, feeling like you're being lifted up above by a beautiful string so that your spine is aligned, and slowly tuck in your chin so that you have a beautiful straight line. Relaxing your shoulders, feeling the gravity of your shoulders going downwards, so you're relaxing them. Keeping all the muscles around your face relaxed. You can smile if you want. Smiling is great for relaxing the muscles in the face. And feeling your eyes becoming very soft. Closing your eyes. And taking your inner gaze to the point between your eyebrows, your third eye chakra. And while you're here, I'm just going to ask you some simple reflection questions. And just see what comes up. Your thoughts, your emotions, any visions, any images, colors, whatever it is, allow them to surface. They're all good. So as you're closing your eyes, connect with your breath, noticing the pattern of your breath. And the first question I want to ask you is, what does home mean to you? What does home mean to you? See what comes up. Your thoughts, how your body feels, any memories. What's coming up for you when I say, what is home to you? Keep connecting with your breath. And if you find anything triggering, use your breath to exhale the energy out. So inhaling deeply and exhaling that energy that triggers you or challenges you. But still allow everything to come up. Keep connecting to the word home. Home. And the next reflection question is, have you had any challenges when it comes to feeling home and feeling connected? Have you had any challenges when it comes to feeling home and feeling connected? Again, connect with your breath. Keep breathing deeply and see what comes up. Exhale the energy out if you need to. And as you're connecting to this, I want you to really feel into your body. So scan your body. Continue allowing things to come up, but scan your body. Notice if there are any parts of your body that are feeling tight or heavy. And breathe into those spaces. And exhale and release the energy from those spaces. And keep finding those little pockets of tightness and heaviness in our body, breathing into them and releasing through our breath, giving ourselves full permission to open up all these different spaces that we're feeling. Continue breathing deeply. And the last question for reflection is, what can you connect to today or this week that will bring a sense of home and connection to you? What can you connect to, or who can you connect to in your life right now that will bring a sense of home and connection within? See what comes up. Stay here for as long as you like, but if you're ready to move on, bring one of the palms of your hands and just place it over your heart space. Physically feeling your heart beat underneath the palm of your hand. Physically feeling the warmth of your body. And breathe into your heart space. Integrate that energy into your heart. Feel free to set an intention. You can set an intention for this Capricorn new moon, or for anything at all if you're watching this and listening to this in the future. Set an intention of how you want to connect deeper into home and feeling connected within. And when you're ready, take a beautiful deep breath in. So inhaling deeply into your heart space and into your belly. And hold your breath at the top. And then exhale. And one last time, take a beautiful deep breath in. Inhale deeply. Hold your breath at the top. Feel your heart. And exhale when you're ready and release. Release your hand to your side. Connect back to your breath. Take a few moments here if you need to. Or if you're ready to end, open your eyes and just take a moment to gaze around the room or the environment that you're in. And I invite you to write down in your journal what came up for you. What came up when it came to the topic of home? What came up during the meditation in terms of the feeling of connection? Or how did your body respond when you had your thoughts, your emotions, your images, and your memories or anything else come up when we were talking and sharing throughout this whole episode? I invite you to write this down in your journal, and I will be back very soon with another episode, sharing some more reflections and also some more tips. And please do have a look at the blog post connected to this episode, because it will have much more information. It will also show you some different platforms where you can listen to these episodes, whether it's on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify. So there will be links there so that you can keep track of any new episodes that are coming up. And we do have a lot of free content on our website, so you can check that out at yogaforoempaths.com, where we have a lot of free information there and free classes and free workshops that you can join. So thanks for taking the time to tune in with me to listen to my reflections, and I hope it inspired you in some way. Take care of yourself. Have a beautiful day. Satnam.